It's time for the last panel discussion of the day. The blockchain technology market is expected to be worth $394.6 billion by 2028. Currently, cutting-edge innovations in blockchain are changing the way we manage and store valuable information. Here, the question arises, what is the next big thing after blockchain that will take data security a step further? Our panelists will take you on a journey through this field to answer this critical question. And I would like to invite Dr. Eric Luster, the CEO of Movement Interactive, Inc., to initiate the proceedings of this session.
Test. Great. Well, thank you all for joining us on the final panel discussion of the InterCon 2021 conference. I was told that we must finish strong and we must finish on a high note. So I have an esteemed panel of experts here, and in particular, the domain experts across human resources, access control, and physical security, financial transaction, and remote patient monitoring. As stated, our theme is we're going to start discussing what's the next big thing in blockchain. So our panelists will take us on this journey to look at the next big thing, but also stop for a moment and assess how we've done so far as achieving the existing goal. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and let the panelists start with introductions. AJ?
My name is Jotwani. You can call me AJ. I'm the co-founder and CEO of InterCon. Mic is not on? Yeah. Is it on now? Okay, cool. So I'm going to repeat myself. My name is Ajay Jotwani. You can call me AJ. And I'm the co-founder and CEO of I2Chain. As the name suggests, we secure the two most valuable assets, identity and information. And prior to I2Chain, I was the vice president of product management at IBM. And during my tenure, I was very fortunate to incubate and lead digital workplace services to deliver $1 billion of signings in under a year. So I'm delighted to be here, part of this esteemed group, and look forward to this session, exciting session. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Christina Rime. I'm the founder of CrudeX, and I connect diverse tech talent with inclusive startups. I've been in tech for about 15 years. I've sat in engineering, product, and in marketing. And my background is in digital data. And so with that, I got to support all the teams throughout the tech org. And this led me to seeing that there was a lack of diversity in tech. So I took a step back and saw an opportunity to make a change. And so I founded CrudeX to not only just connect tech talent with inclusive startups, but to ensure that everybody is in an environment where all can thrive.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Bernard Garcia. I'm the founder and CEO of Enviasoft. We are identity provider in identity access management area for cybersecurity, secure authentication, and in a contactless biometric. This is the world's first multimodal contactless biometric. This is very interesting topic about blockchain, as we all know that blockchain affect us in our daily lives in the future, more so in we should have a secure platform to transact our business. And blockchain as what they call this internet of money or something like that. We have a lot of application, and for that we are providing. Enviasoft offers blockchain for identity, digital identity. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Bernard. So I'm in two capacities here. So I started my professional career with the United States Army. I enlisted as a nuclear biological chemical specialist. Very fortunate I was stationed in a tactical satellite battalion, so I got 2 for 1 with the Army. Ended up being recruited out of the Army by Northrop Grumman Mission Systems to work on the Joint Interoperability Test Command and integration of various sensors and technology, and also did a lot in information assurance. Today, that started my foundation. Today, I own and operate a wearable tech company where we build a sensor to detect and report concussions in real time. And started off as community work, but ended up owning a senior living facility that has 150 residents in Arizona, and I'm the chairman of the board for that facility, and we're innovating. And so that leads into this conversation with blockchain. Throughout the conference, there has been a lot of dialogue, a strong foundation laid on the technical aspects. I've talked to the panelists, and we're going to start at a basic level and build up to answer the question, what is the next big thing? So when we start, I want you guys to really think about maybe an hour and a half ago, as we are all pioneers in the blockchain space. We got to leave this conference with the tenacity to actually go and push and work towards getting this technology and innovating. You need to really have the tenacity to stand in a room and stand on the chair and get everyone's attention when it's in reference to blockchain. And I'll tell you why, because it's important. This impacts everyone in this room. You literally all have come out to this conference. Pretty sure you've had your second vaccination right now. So we're all users. So what if when you sat in the line to get that vaccination, if you pulled out your phone and were able to get that QR code and blockchain was managing the logistics of that vaccination? If someone can answer this question, please raise your hand. What would you do right now if an announcement was made and the Pfizer vaccine had a bad lot number? Does anybody know who to call? Yeah. So that's the tenacity of the users we're looking at. We need to push and drive. We should have demanded some blockchain information. We would have had that information readily available as it concerns to our health. So my first question to the panelists is, in each domain, I would like to discuss how you all are seeing the users being encouraged to be advocates and demand for trust and demand for blockchain in your specific domain. AJ?
Thank you very much. I think that's just fabulous. I think let's go back to the fundamentals. The reason blockchain even took off as a tech or as a capability was because it promises disintermediation more than what previously internet promised, right? Internet became pervasive. I remember back in 90s, internet became pervasive because of disintermediation and created new intermediaries. Blockchain goes far and beyond, decentralizes, distributed ledger technology, and really delivers to that disintermediation promise. And that's one of the fundamental reasons why it is gaining some permeability. Obviously, everything on the chain is also immutable, and that establishes some level of trust. Having said that, I do want to cite a few examples. When we started off our startup, i2Chain, we did it as a culmination of three broad technology: information security, heuristics, some level of AI, if you will,
and blockchain. We established it at the back of Ethereum and then went on to Hyperledger, and we carried out a couple of pilot projects, if you will. But when things really needed to get down to production systems, all of a sudden there were a lot of challenges around governance and other techs. And but truly speaking, that's really where we started pivoting and trying to see what can we do to ensure that we make the blockchain use cases real. So at the end, we borrowed the two technologies, the zero trust architecture, make sure that everything is authenticated at all times before any access is provided. And we also borrowed the immutability from the blockchain, and really took out the blocks out of the blockchain, used the immutable ledgers versus the distributed ledgers, if you will. And all of a sudden, the larger banks were more open to being able to deploy it in their production systems. So just a great question. I think it just opens up the doors on what can we do, how can we marry the technologies that are available today to ensure that we are not delivering a tool, but a solution to our valued customers. Thank you.
Is this on? Yeah, so I moved away from building products, the traditional space, and tried to solve the problem of getting more diverse people into tech. And at first, I see a lot of diversity recruiters out there, but we all have biases no matter how hard we try not to have those biases. So I'm trying to find a solution to overcome those biases, and so now I'm discovering blockchain to help me with that. And so with blockchain, there's a way to remove bias by anonymizing my candidates and creating that trust with authentication of blockchain, but still have them remain anonymous. So I'm in the discovery phase of building a DApp, a decentralized app, of where tech workers can enter in all their information, their credentials, where they went to school, their previous work, just a wealth of information. And then we can anonymize their identity. And then when startups want to recruit these people, they'll be answering questions more like, did you go to an accredited college? And it will be yes, rather than the exact college that you went to, because knowing that level of detail will introduce bias. And then even further down the process in this selection, you'll be able to give candidates assessments, even technical challenges. And again, with that authentication of remaining anonymous, these candidates can take these assessments, will be able to, with certainty, know that the candidate who says they're taking the assessments is indeed them. And then when we get the results back, we can just do the results off of the pure data and not introducing bias with their identity. And so that's how I am seeing the use of blockchain from that standpoint of just removing that bias, but then also giving the workers that are entering into this data the flexibility of them owning the data, them controlling who has access to that, even being able to put their data on different data markets where they can be sold. Algorithms can be trained off of this data, or they can be specifically marketed to, but they will get the benefit of that. So that's a little bit of a shift from today's mentality. So to remove bias and then to give the users control of their data for them to decide how they want to use it.
Good point. When it comes to security and authentication, but let's start in the basic of blockchain. That is the democratization of data. But we have to have a strong authentication to access data, and as you said, to remove the bias. We have our algorithm for our authentication solution using our own biometric. Like for example, our unique ID, once it's stored in blockchain, it's immutable. As AJ pointed a while ago, the immutability is the strength of blockchain. So I believe that it will be a great benefit to people, especially, as I said, it's democratizing the process. Like, for example, we have one partner who is promoting EMR in blockchain. So instead of going to many facilities or practices to get their medical record, they own the record. They democratize the EMR. But the thing is, that EMR is secured, immutable, they cannot change. They have to have a strong authentication. And that's where our solution planned and designed to be a blockchain of digital ID. Because your profile, your ID, once it's in our blockchain network, it's immutable. They cannot change.
Yeah. Excellent. So we hit on some of the users, and so once we attract those users, get them motivated about blockchain, there's another challenge, and that's funding. So, any panelist can take this, but what are some of the bottlenecks and what are some of the challenges that's stopping or slowing down the implementation of blockchain, or even the future in which there's a disruptor to the existing blockchain? Anyone want to take that?
And a great question. I think that's just fundamental to the blockchain. And if I rewind in time, I think one of the most challenging and perhaps the most beautiful thing about the blockchain is its consensus mechanism, right? We started with the proof of work, and proof of work required that 51% consensus. Really, if you have hundreds and thousands and millions of nodes, all of a sudden a transaction would take a long term, and then narrowed it down to proof of stake. In fact, the previous panel, this gentleman, what's his name? I forget his name, but he was talking about decentralization and talking about Ethereum has now recently moved on to proof of stake as well. Their fork is on proof of stake. And most of the recent blockchains are on proof of authority. So they are narrowing down the consensus mechanism in some which way where there could be a good blend between the consensus mechanism governance models, if you will, and that is improving and enhancing the functionality. Think about it from a standpoint of, Uber today or Bank of America, a bank which has a central authority over hundreds of millions of accounts. All of a sudden, you decentralize it. You still want your transactions to be seamless, your identity to be protected, as Bernard was talking about. You want the transactions to be trusting, and you also want to make sure that the records are, the transactions are immutable. So if you, and I think one of the fundamental changes that is happening through these consensus mechanisms is making the blockchain superbly flexible, very, very fast, and highly trustworthy to be able to, for the transactions to be, being trustworthy, in fact. Thank you.
Yeah, I just think some of the bottlenecks now are just due to how early we are in blockchain. And so I think there needs to be a network that emerges. So right now Ethereum, you can build dApps on, but there's other networks popping up. So we need to have more visibility in that to know how to build the dApps. There needs to just be more standards around collecting the data, and knowing if there's going to be specific protocols that will emerge that we can integrate with all of our products. So I like to think of it as we're kind of in the early stages, like how we were with the web. And then with the web that we're in now, we have a lot of standards that we can follow to build great experiences. And so I think with blockchain, we need to have more of those standards so we can build great experiences at scale.
Excellent.
In terms of bottleneck in blockchain, since this is new and it's hype, I don't see really a bottleneck as of now because this is still new, but eventually it will have saturation of the usage of blockchain, and definitely it will have a bottleneck. And the good thing of this is the blockchain benefiting, and from then on, from now on, we will see a lot of product as a service because of blockchain. There is a commodity as a service, or platform as a service, identity as a service, and with those technology and services or tools becoming application become a tool, or vice versa. By the use of this blockchain, I believe it will reach a bottleneck eventually. But as the technology progresses, it will be faster and faster, especially for the quantum technology. It will fuel more strength in blockchain. We are still in the early stage of blockchain, so to speak. So there will be a lot of applications to be developed in this. And bottleneck, definitely it will have, but what I'm thinking is, because of the advancement of technology and more speed, because right now, a little drawback of blockchain is when it processes a blob object or binary large object, it's kind of slow. But it will speed up.
Gotcha. Yeah, so within your domains, what are you all doing, or what are you witnessing happening in your domain that relates to actual users? Because after I go out and I meet with consumers of a particular product, when you mention the word algorithm, the standard users, their eyes glaze over. And so in order to talk the next blockchain killer, it has to be something that's delivered to the masses. So how do you get over that hurdle of taking something that may be complex in many eyes? Outside of this room, it's very complex. You go out on the Vegas Strip right now, and most people will understand what cryptocurrency is, but when you ask them what blockchain is, they don't know. They don't see blockchain synonymous with trust. So how do we get there?
It's a nice question. Well, in my domain, we are focused on identity access management using our blockchain of ID. Well, think about this from the basic. How to make the software user-friendly and easy to use, right? So the consumer nowadays, they don't know, they have no idea that this fast services that they're using, blockchain is behind it, especially cryptocurrency. They don't know about that. They don't know about cryptography. They just heard about Bitcoin, and they have no idea about blockchain. But the consumer are benefiting. This is my point of view. Technology people like us, we understand that there is a blockchain technology, next level to the huge expansion of client server, and that's become the blockchain. But the user acceptance of the blockchain, what do you call this, powered solution or application is, for example, Uber. They are benefiting for the fast service or secure service of that, and that's a blockchain. So next killer.
Yeah, so
That's a lot of
we're talking about the simplification of explaining this to the user, so that we can look at the existing implementation and future implementations. So once we get there, what are if we get there with the simplification, what other disruptive approaches are you all seeing within the domains? To just add on to the last question.
Okay. So, as I said, our approach is to give the most secure authentication for the users, and once the profile or unique ID is in the blockchain, it is immutable and secure. So in that particular application, that is democratizing the identity of individual. And that's, I think, for me, that will be the next killer app. I mean, not really because there will be a lot of application, but what I'm saying is so many applications in cyberspace, they all need authentication. And having this strong authentication in the front end or in the endpoint user, and then blockchain as the back end, that will be the strongest security for identification.
Yeah, I think Krista made a very important point in the previous discussion, that how do you really improve the experience, and I think Bernard echoed that point as well, where, you know, how do you really enhance the experience? How do you elevate that experience? And at least from where we are at this point of time, there are two clear vectors that we are on. One, we have taken the blocks out of the blockchain, and that is just us, because we want to largely institutionalize the immutability aspect and the zero trust aspect of the chain, if you will. And the second aspect is, how do you really permeate between the tech silos, right? AI and heuristics is going along in one vector, then there is cryptography and security moving in another vector, and then there's blockchain moving in other vector. And that's really where our initiatives are being driven, where we want to be able to create this permeability across these three vectors to be able to bring in the best of breed services, a solution to enhance the experience, elevate that experience from a user perspective.
Yes.
Yeah, I would say within my domain, I'm not really going out there and saying necessarily I'm building a dApp. I want to build an experience that has value add. So I'm going out there and saying to my tech users that will be using this app that they'll have complete control of their data and they'll be able to move it around how they wish. For my client side, it will be removing identity to make it anonymous so you can get the best talent out there. So I don't think now, you know, a lot of our users don't know if we're building on React Native or what cloud service that we're using. We as technologists have to find the best technology to serve, you know, the best experience and solve problems.
Excellent. Great. And so I would like, before we open it up for Q&A, I would like to make a statement and have each panelist comment on this statement. What if we were to say that the next blockchain killer is the human capital that's in this room, that's in this industry? What would you say to that?
What's the next blockchain killer? So I think that you know, once we get a better infrastructure and standards around blockchain, we'll see two paths. We'll see apps being built to replace current experiences. So for example, social. Anybody that used Facebook and Instagram in here? No one? Few? There we go. So right now you're using Facebook, Instagram. You are the content generators. You're giving all this content to the platform owners so they can know about you and sell that data so you can be marketed to. And your value that they're saying that you get is you get to use this experience, right? While they literally make hundreds of millions of dollars off of this. And so with blockchain, you'll be able to own your data, and then you'll be able to sell it, and so you'll be getting value for generating the content that you do. So I think there'll be replacements to existing experiences, and then we'll see all new experiences all together. So who eats fish? Anybody eat fish in here? Okay, who would eat fish if you knew it wasn't sustainably caught? Who would eat fish if you knew it came from an enslaved people? That was the labor that they were using, right? So with blockchain, we will be able to, with a lot of products, know how it's moving through the supply chain and get transparency of how it was sourced, if it's sustainable, and the type of labor practices they use. And so we'll have apps where we can look up all of our products and we can start to make our decisions of our purchasing decisions based off of our own beliefs and our values. And so that's a new way of shopping that we'll see emerging from blockchain. So I think those two areas will be the next really big killers.
You know, one of the we have all been raised with, my name is Ajay Jotwani to the best of my knowledge, right? I mean, you look at any government form, and there it is out there, right? You're doing things to the best of your knowledge. I think blockchain is transforming this to saying, hey, as a matter of fact, my name is Ajay Jotwani, right? And that's the big difference. There's the immutability that comes with it, the trust that comes with it, the identity security, and the integrity of the transaction that comes with it. And obviously there are new things which we have perhaps not discussed, and perhaps this is not the forum, but zero knowledge proofs and other things, where you really have algorithms that are taking us to the next level of capability as human beings, if you will. Having said that, I think the next blockchain killer, if you will, is going to be something that where we enhance the permeability between, because there's just tremendous advancement that has happened in, I know Rahul Bard was just sitting there, he led the AI panel yesterday. It was just a delight, day before yesterday. And there's just significant advancements that's happening in there. Neil Daswani, I see sitting right at the back out there, talked about data security and his fascinating book. I think the important point is, how do you really create that permeability between these various techs and silos to enhance the pervasiveness, improve and elevate the experience, and yet make it hugely secure for everybody?
Yeah, good point, AJ. The integrity of blockchain, that is this trend of blockchain, the immutability, the integrity, something that you're going to change once it's there. I believe that there will be a killer app for blockchain. I'm not being biased with what technology we have been biased of, but I'm just being passionate about, because we see the proof. Imagine cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, right? The back end is blockchain. But what is the authentication? Password. Can you imagine that? How rudimentary compared to your highest technology blockchain right now. So the killer application would be, if you will, is identity blockchain, blockchain for identity. Imagine that, let's say, you have your immutable identity in the cloud, and your password is your hand. That's our product. All right, so let's say you have your hand connected to your passport, to your driver's license, to the travel agency, the travel industry that we use before we go here in Vegas, right? When we travel, even in abroad, even international, when I was in Dubai, I was watching, last month, I was watching how the immigration, process, how to touch this dirty surface of biometrics and stuff like that, but still, the blockchain, once we put the ID in our authentication gateway, that gateway will help tourists, travelers, to travel seamlessly without pulling the passport in their bag. Just put the hand, and that connects to the blockchain, and that gateway will connect to Department of State, bank, hotel. That's the future. We're talking about, well, when we see a movie, it's like, well, that's futuristic. But you know what? An advancement of technology, those ideas before, like, well, that will happen 20 years from now. Because of this speed of advancement, we have the blockchain and quantum technology in the future. That 20 years from now would be 5 years.
Can I piggyback off of what you said? Because I love social impact.
Yeah.
So using your technology with identification with the hand, you'll be able to go to places that are high risk of natural disaster, war-torn places where people have to flee and they don't have their identification, their papers. Yes. And now they'll be able to move about and get help and services without those papers by using the hand. Yeah. So there's also real social impact.
And that's where AJ's point of integrity comes along. Because when you put your hand, your data is in blockchain, and your integrity is assured. So, that's we're not saying that's the direction, but it will happen. It will, the application will be there.
Yeah, those were really great examples here. At this moment, I would like to open it up for the audience and Q&A. Yes. Great job.
Thanks.
Great.
We all tested, right?
Oh, yeah, of course, because I'm sitting over here like chomping at the bit, ready to ask you a question. Okay, so still trying to form the question in my head here real quick. To kind of flip the script a little bit, could blockchain be its own worst enemy? Right now in the public zeitgeist, blockchain and cryptocurrency seem to be intertwined. Other technologies that we've seen come about and have become ubiquitous. For example, we don't talk about a 811, what is the 80 thing? Yes, the Wi-Fi standard.
Yes.
Nobody talks about Wi-Fi standard anymore. It's just there. Nobody talks about back-end data throughput. Is it 10? Is it 100 megabyte? Is it gigabyte? Nobody cares because it got in the way of the conversation. Maybe us as promoters need to stop promoting blockchain and get out of its way in order to get to it. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Correct.
Yeah.
A couple of things.
So,
Okay, go ahead.
well, I do have a kind of a different approach on that, and my background and where I'm coming from is directly with the users, and so I did mention this senior living facility, and we're innovating. We're bringing a telemedicine solution, implementing sensors, Alexa, to integrate with the seniors as they want to age in place and continue to live independently. But what happens is most of the seniors, they're used to what they're used to. So if they like to go to the bank and talk to someone, a physical person, it's a real tough sell to get them to log onto a mobile device and actually do a bank transaction. So the way you get that and the way that we've had to do that in this facility is by smaller approaches. So we go after this process that we use within Movement Interactive, and that's identifying the user's want in order to get to their need. So we know that our seniors need to have trusted information. But what do they want? They want in person, they want that interaction in face. I mean, COVID was the worst thing that could have happened to this what we know now, this vulnerable population. So I really think that in order to start addressing that at any user base, we have to really find out what they want and start addressing that in order to get to the need.
I had there, I think this is just fabulous. I'm going to tell you another use case, right? This is real time. When we started as a science project. And ultimately, we find a groove with a very large bank where, and there's an underlying change in the from LIBOR to SOFR. And LIBOR was more static. Now, all of a sudden, when you underwrite a loan, there is a new standard that is required and that is more dynamic. There's no longer a bank's capability to be able to send the documents via snail mail, USPS, if you will, or any other medium. And we became super essential because we were able to secure that piece of document, have a zero trusting architecture, and make that document traceable for all actions that have been performed on it. Right? It just becomes hugely usable. Eric, you talked about the clinical, the healthcare use case, and we are at this point of time in the sense of piloting with a very large customer to be able to especially in the telemedicine, to be when you call a first responder, the first responder creates a clinical summary. This clinical summary is referenced to another provider, and 99% of the time, even in United States today, this document is sent over fax. Healthcare industry spends $14 billion in today's day and age on fax. Can you believe that? And we are currently trying to do a pilot where we could, again, secure it, attach our cryptography, and make it secure and traceable via, creating that capability, if you will. But just fabulous question. Thank you very much for that question, Rad.
And also to your question about we as the promoter, we could adapt the how can we convey to the customer. We should convey the benefit instead of throwing the jargons and this is blockchain and stuff like that. There are a couple of things before we go to that blockchain. It's like there's AI and machine learning that study the nuances or the wants of the customer. And I believe as a promoter of technology, that's what we should tell them. Well, when they ask about what's behind it, then that's blockchain, right? Even before, we are not describing, hey, this is mainframe, and this right now, this is client server, right?
Yeah,
Thank you.
and just
Yeah.
one quick add.
Oh,
go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say, we need to start, so I've been in analytics for many, many, many years. And we started out in analytics with pure numbers. And then we would get requests of, we don't want numbers, we want literally pictures. I had that request. And then it came to storytelling. So we need to tell stories that relate with people, tell use cases about how, your new product coming out that's enhanced. And then if they are curious, you can talk about blockchain, but nobody, the typical user doesn't care about blockchain. They just want a really good experience and want to know how it's going to enhance their life.
And one closing point on that, and you said if the practitioner should move out of the way. I go back to the beginning of this conversation when I encourage everyone to have the tenacity, to have the ability to stand on the chair in a crowded room. Because when we were faced with a problem, and that's just from being on the ground with the user, I made the assumption that everyone had a smart device, even the seniors. But we found out that not many had they had flip phones. And so we swiftly took action, and we're actually stepping in and we're kicking out the standard internet service provider, and we're taking that on as a property. And so we're going to be providing Wi-Fi to our residents, and it's only to fulfill a need. They need training. So with us taking over the infrastructure, providing the TV servicing, the internet, we're able to actually put the training right into the TV programming. So that's one of the things that we want to try to encourage to get blockchain going.
I have time for one more question, but we have to keep it very short so we can all get through the end of this day.
Okay, my question is pretty short. You mentioned quantum mechanics. You mentioned different things like the immutability part. My question is pretty simple, and it could be like a yes or no to a choice, a decision. I think, do we think that blockchain, as a maybe group, that it's a direct approach to thinking about it and to discussing it and moving forward with it, or do we think that it's more of a indirect approach where direct means we understand we're more of a collective about it, or indirect approach meaning we notice that we have dissimilarities and we're just trying to move forward with like a blockchain decisive?
My quick short answer to that is trust. So this data saying by 2020, anywhere between 4 to 7 devices out there per human. And so we're inundated with all of these devices, and we don't necessarily trust them. So what if you can introduce the blockchain to stand in between those devices? I would feel a lot more comfortable based on the reputation of blockchain compared to dealing directly with the hardware.
I would echo that and say really it's both direct as well as indirect, right? It's a distributed ledger at the end of the day. You might use it for its technological competence, or you might use it because it enhances and provides decentralization. Whatever the rationale for you to be able to leverage a technology to elevate the experience and bring it home, I would think that's the key. The key is how do you elevate the user's experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, user experience, yeah, if they can see the benefit, it's a matter of choice. For us, promoters, it really depends what resources we have. If we have available blockchain to use, then that's the decision to make. As Eric says, it's like trust for the technology. And we believe there will be a lot of adoption for that. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you all for your time, and great questions, everyone.
Thank you so much, panelists. That was very informative. Great session.